Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 34, verse 16. Seek ye out of the book of Yahweh, which of course is the scriptures, what's known as the Bible, the Old and the New Testament, as well as the Apocrypha, which is a part of the Old Testament, and read, no one of these shall fail, speaking of the prophecies contained in these scriptures, from the past to the present to the coming prophecies. Every single prophecy stated in these scriptures will come to pass. None shall want her mate. There's no other so-called philosophy, religion, scientific theory, text, or anything that can compare to the 100% accuracy of the scriptures. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. And one of the major prophecies, the major prophecy we're waiting to come to its fulfillment is the mandatory implementation of the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And he calleth all, the he being the elite rulers of the planet right now, who are of the nation of the biblical Edomites, known as these so-called white people, these Americans, British, Europeans, Russians, South Afrikaners, the little hats over in the Holy Land right now, etc., etc. Those are elites, including the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Aldriches, the list goes on, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, everyone in society to receive a MARK, which for the rest of the video I'll be referring to as the charagma, in their right hand or in their foreheads. And the charagma is a physical implementation because these Edomites are physical, carnal people. And when we go into the Strongs for the word charagma, it's G5480. And it reads, a stamp, an imprinted mark, a physically imprinted mark, a thing carved, sculpture, graven work. And when we go into the Strong's definition for charagma, it's from the same as G5482, a scratch or etching. And how did they get that charagma into your skin? Oh, I completely forgot to say it. The charagma is the RFID/NFC MICROCHIPIMPLANT. And how did they get that charagma into your skin? With that syringe, which does what? Cuts or scratches into you. But when we go to that word G5482, it's harax, which reads a pail or stake, a palisade. And what do you do with a pail or stake? You plant it into the earth and claim your territory, your property, which is exactly what the elites want to do with you. They want to implant this digital pail into the ground or the flesh of your body to claim you as their property. And when we go into the Strong's info, it reads harasso, harax from harasso, to sharpen to a point, akin to G1125, through the idea of scratching, pricked, scratching, cutting in your skin to put that charagma into you. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell and get a job, travel abroad, or do anything in society, save he that had the charagma, or the name of the BEAST, or the number of his name. And with the coming rollout and eventual mandatory implementation of this haragma, once this system is fully implemented, you won't be able to do anything in society without it. You'll be seen as a social pariah. And we got a dry run, an example of that, with the jump shots during the C019 situation back in 2020 and 2021. With the rollout of that, hey, a lot of people face losing their jobs and not being able to go into certain establishments if they couldn't show proof of taking those tequila shots. And as we clearly saw, a lot of people buckled under the pressure, and a lot of people are going to buckle under this pressure, and it's going to be even more intense this time because this is the true MOTB. These elites are about to pull out all the stops to get as many people in society to receive it and be locked into this system. And I opened up the video with these verses to preface an article on DineIkbidYaloi.com titled WEF says CBDCs must be implanted under your skin if you want to participate in society, if you want to buy or sell. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive that charagma. And this just goes to show how close we are to the rollout and eventual mandatory implementation of this charagma. Again, in Isaiah 34, verse 16, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read, no one of these prophecies shall fail. And we sound like a broken record saying the same thing over and over again over the years. But hey, that's our job as watchmen, to prophesy the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And we're going on the Most High's time. It may seem like a long time in these physical bodies, but best believe in the spirit world, it's already happened, and it's rolling along much faster than we think and will come to pass. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, for the time that the Lord wants it to take place in. But at the end it shall speak and not lie. No one of these shall fail. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And we can clearly see that it is surely coming and really no longer tarrying. More and more in the news, you're hearing talks about a digital cashless society and the implementation of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which that haragma is going to be the middleman between you and the bank to use those CBDCs. But let's get into this article. The WEF has declared that all citizens must be implanted with a CBDC haragma in the very near future. Though it tarry, wait for it shall surely come, it will not tarry, in order to be able to fully participate in society and do basic things such as purchase food and water that they may neither buy nor sell. According to Professor Richard Werner, in the very near future, citizens will need to use the latest technology, such as a CBDC haragma implant, in order to access their bank accounts. Professor Richard A. Werner is an economist and professor of banking and finance. He is known as the proponent of a new post-crisis monetary policy he called quantitative easing, which he proposed in Japan in 1995 as chief economist of a British investment bank. He has also worked as a researcher at the University of Oxford, the Bank of Japan, the Development Bank of Japan, and the Asian Development Bank. He is involved in supporting the establishment of a not-for-profit community banks through an initiative called Local First CIC. ExposeNews.com reports at the Amsterdam Science Summit in 2022, Professor Werner gave a lecture on central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and the 2030 Agenda. At the sidelines of this year's Amsterdam Science Summit, he spoke to Ivor Cummings about CBDCs and how high inflation has been orchestrated by central banks to further their agenda, that he that causeth all. Everything that's taken place in this so-called modern society of ours has been pulled by the puppet strings of the puppet masters, the elites, to forward their agenda to bring about that NW0, that GREATRESET, that fourth industrial revolution, to fully have society locked down in this digital matrix and everyone to be tagged and traced. And if you buck up against the system, they'll simply cut your charagma off and you won't be able to do anything but starve to death. And I'm going to skip around a bit in this article to hit the points. You have to think of CBDCs as a control system or a permit system, not a currency, Professor Werner explained. It's a conditional currency based on you actually getting that permit. Now, if you happen to be some kind of critic of the government policy or a critic of central banks, this could be difficult. Or if you dare to step out of the 15-minute city zone, maybe you'll find that, my CBDC is not working. That's another thing that's been talked about being implemented are 15 and 20-minute cities, to where cities are going to have everything compacted to where they're 15 to 20 minutes away in walking distance or in biking distance in order to combat so-called climate change using less vehicles and fossil fuels, everything, again, within walking or biking distance at the touch of your fingers. And lest we forget, there's also talks of a carbon tax credit being rolled out. And if you've exceeded your carbon credits for, the allotted time, say a week, then you won't be able to do things like buy more gasoline or buy more meat or use more energy until your period restarts the following period. Of course, these are things we've seen already in China. There's plenty of videos where somebody tries to use it to buy a ticket and it doesn't work because his social credit scores are low, point blank period. Everything tied to that CBDC, the charagma, which those CBDCs are going to be on, as well as all your other personal information, banking, biometrics, you name it. And hey, if you, just like over in China with their social credit score, if you exceed your credit limits or you make illegal purchases or say things deemed unpatriotic on the internet or whatever, hey, they'll lower your score and cut off your charagma until you've learned your lesson and become a good little goyim and get back in line. And effectively, there's no right to appeal. With very few people controlling the very many, the controllers will use computers and algorithms to run the system. If you appeal the blocking of CBDCs you'll be dealing with, it's like if you appeal the blocking of CBDCs, you'll be dealing with automated responses. Professor Werner explained that the central planners, as he calls them, orchestrate inflation to cover up changes to banking systems. For example, in the 1970s, high inflation was orchestrated to cover up the move of the gold-backed US dollar to the petrodollar, and the high inflation we've experienced in 2021 and 2022 has been orchestrated to cover up the move from the petrodollar to CBDCs. The true reason I think why they wanted this inflation, because that it is to cover up essentially the disintegration of the petrodollar and move the new system, which they want to be CBDC based. At the moment, there's talks about CBDCs being used via phone apps, which what did we see during the situation back in 2020 and 2021? A social spacing and contactless payments, using your phones and QR codes to do a lot of things to help stop the spread. And a lot of these restaurants out here, for example, don't have menus and have a QR code on the napkin dispenser with a digital menu on it. And then there was a push towards what these digital payment platforms like Venmo and Cash App and Apple Pay, which now You've seen a lot of those people that run those companies mysteriously disappear or be deleted so that the powers that be can centralize all these digital platforms onto one platform, the CBDCs and that Charagma completely controlled by them. Yes, that is the initial phase, but what was already ready around 2015 is the ultimate goal. What they really want, apparently, I was told by a central banker, is the CBDC looks like a small grain of rice that they want to put under your skin. And this is my view of violation of human dignity. And they realize there is a hurdle to get people to accept this, Professor Werner said. So they're using crises, disruption, and unemployment to introduce universal basic income, order ad chaos, order out of chaos, to soften the public up to accepting a CBDC Charagma implanted under their skin. You will get 2,000 euros into your account every month. But of course, to run this efficiently, they'll say we need to use the latest technology, so you need the CBDC Charagma implant. That's it with this article. But hey, though it tarry, wait for it shall surely come. It will not tarry. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord. No one of these shall fail. With each passing day, more information is coming out, and we're getting closer and closer to the rollout and eventual mandatory implementation of the Charagma. And like Richard Wagner said, at the moment, there's talks about CBDCs being used via phone apps. Yet, yes, that's the initial phase. We're seeing all the pieces being put in place right now, the infrastructure being set up so that the transition to that Charagma will be that much easier. And to show a clear-cut example of that, here is a clip from the brother GMS Vegas Sit-Downs 144K's YouTube channel titled The Future of Payments. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
You would never believe what the future of payments looks like with Amazon One. So I'm getting lunch at my Whole Foods Market in downtown LA, and I didn't bring my wallet since I'll be paying with my Palm. I'm choosing all my favorites from the hot foods bar and heading to the self-checkout, and usually I'd be digging in my bag for my wallet or scanning my phone, but your Palm is linked to your credit or debit card, and Prime membership discounts are automatically applied.
What did she say?
Lunch at my Whole Foods Market in downtown LA, and I didn't bring my wallet since I'll be paying with my Palm. I'm choosing all my favorites from the hot foods bar and heading to the self-checkout, and usually I'd be digging in my bag for my wallet or scanning my phone, but your Palm is linked to your credit or debit card, and Prime membership discounts.
Usually I would use my phone-based app to pay, but now that I've got Amazon One, I don't need to dig into my purse for my wallet or my phone. I can just simply scan with the palm of my hand in their hands or in their foreheads.
Are automatically applied. All of this makes paying so much easier, and you can sign up for Amazon One online in my link in bio.
10 News at 10 with Mark Martinez and Ellen McNamara.
Welcome back. Imagine not needing cash, a card, or your phone to pay, just your hand.
Yeah, it's called palm recognition technology, and that method of payment is already here in the Valley. As I found out, it's safer than you probably think. With the scan of your hand, you can now pay for your groceries at any Whole Foods in the Valley.
As far as handprint scanning and other means of biometric like eye scanning and fingerprint scanning, it's definitely the way of the future.
Just put your hand here. The palm recognition system is called Amazon One, and tech expert Burton Kelso says,
with biometrics, one of the things that's great is that your information is tied to you. There's only one set of eyes that matches your identity. Same thing with fingerprints and same thing with palm recognition and facial recognition. So that's a good thing.
Customers
your personal biometric information only linked to you. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. Back to that word Charagma. Let's go to the root, harax. And now let's go to the root for harax, which is G1125, grapho. And in the outline of biblical usage, it says to write with reference to the form of the letters, to delineate or form letters on a tablet, parchment, paper, or other materials, to write with reference to the contents of the writing, to commit to writing things not to be forgotten, write down, record, hey, all your digital biometric and banking information and personal information on your charagma, personally linked to you so that your information can't be easily hacked or stolen.
We spoke with were split.
It just makes the transition in and out of the grocery store a lot faster. Of course, it's a little bit scary, but I love technology, so I decided to check it out.
I don't feel comfortable just because, you're just grocery shopping. Why would you, scan your finger or your eyes or anything just to buy groceries?
It freaks me out, but I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't do it because maybe sometimes for convenience, but I don't know, it freaks me out.
While many have concerns,
Part of the fear that people may see is that someone may cut off a limb like you see in the movies in order to pay for stuff, but that isn't going to happen. I mean, for the most part, your biometric data is safe, and it's going to make the future of transactions a lot easier to deal with.
Kelso says it is easier to hack your accounts online that have passwords. So while paying for items will become a breeze, it could become more difficult to teach our children about the value of money.
With automatic payment systems, it really is hard to teach children how to value their money. You already see that with credit cards and with debit cards. They're swiping and it's a done deal.
Now, besides Whole Foods, Panera, some airports, also stadiums across the country, they now have this palm reading technology. Kelso says, though, it's going to take a long time for basically it to go mainstream.
A lot of infrastructure across the country already has these systems set up, so it'll make the transition to that charagma that's much more easy. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see, and it's becoming more self-evident day by day, we are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the biblical Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.